So Mark Levin is total clown, far right-wing fool, and he, on his show, was baited into attacking childcare. Now remember, it's in the Democratic reconciliation package, and so this is why it's good when Democrats push for great things, because then you bait Republicans into unmasking themselves and showing the world what they really believe, which is abhorrent. So watch his commentary.
Like, this is the only generation of women with children who work. My wife worked, has a long, illustrious career while she was raising children. My mother worked, a wonderful career too, while she was raising 3 boys. My mother's mother, my grandmother, worked. She was a single mom. She was raising 2 daughters, and she owned a bar, and she worked full time. What is it with this generation? What is it with this generation? That women aren't going to be able to get back to work unless they have child care? I'm sorry. I'm not buying that, and I'm tired of hearing about it. Now, it's my job and your job to subsidize child care for people so they can go work? Seems to me we're getting awfully soft here. That's not what Americans have done throughout our history. And that's an excuse.
That's glorious. So what is the part that he's not telling you? He's not telling you that in previous generations, specifically during the golden age of economic expansion in the U.S. post-World War II, you could make enough money to support a family on one salary. So the old school way they did it with the nuclear family and the white picket fence and the dog and the 2 kids and mommy and daddy, daddy was able to make enough money to afford everything and pay for everything. And mommy was able to stay at home and raise the kids. That's the way it worked. Then we had the absolute destruction of unions. We had the introduction in the late 1970s to rampant political corruption and legalized bribery after a number of Supreme Court decisions that effectively said money equals speech. And we have now a system that's totally rigged by corporations and billionaires. So you don't make nearly as much money on one salary, so now both parents oftentimes have to work. The majority of the times have to work. So then let's see. You have a kid, but both parents have to work full time. What options do we have here? You could leave the kid alone, in which case they might die, or you can get this thing called childcare. Now, if Mark Levin wanted to propose, some sort of compromise here where he says, well, Kyle, this is how he speaks, Kyle, same as my Ted Cruz impression, but it works. Why not go back to the days where you can survive on one salary? I'll shake on it right now. Let's do it. I'd love to go back to those days where you could survive on one salary. But he's not going to propose that because he's not in favor of that, because he's also a corporate hack and a Republican hack. So he just wants the economic situations to stay the same. His favorite thing is tax cuts for the rich and deregulation. So corporations are going to keep wages low. He wants the situation to stay the same where you need 2 parents working to pay the bills, and then he's also going to berate you about how you don't deserve childcare and you don't need childcare. I mean, look at what he says. My wife worked, my mother worked, my mother-in-law worked. I'm sure he's not giving all the facts behind that as well, by the way. He says, what is it with this generation? Women need childcare? I like how he even pronounces it weird, like it's a concept he's never heard of before. I'm not buying that, and I'm tired of hearing about it. We're getting soft here. How is that soft? How's it soft when wages suck, you need 2 incomes in order to pay the bills, and you have a kid? What are you going to do? Now, some people are lucky enough to have a family member, maybe a grandma or grandpa, who could look after the kid. Well, good for them. But they're lucky. Not everybody has that sort of situation. You know, people pass away at some point too. People live in different places as well. So ideally, people have childcare. No, ideally you could live on one salary, but we ain't getting that. I wish we would. I'd fight for it, but we're not going to get that. So then, okay, you need childcare. And notice, he was like, I have to pay for this? We have to pay for this? He never says that about our military budget, which is way bigger than the next 10 or 12 biggest countries combined, and most of them are our allies. He never says that when it comes to bailouts of Wall Street. He never says that when it comes to subsidizing big oil, one of the most profitable industries in the world, and taxpayers give them money. He never says, I have to pay for that when they're already profitable? Meh. The man is Ted Cruz, but I'm throwing it in here for LEVIN too. He never says that. Anything that fits his priorities, he just stays quiet about it, and he's fine with us subsidizing it. But childcare doesn't fit his priorities. Universal pre-K doesn't fit his priorities. Free college doesn't fit his priorities. Higher wages and unionization, that doesn't fit his priorities because he's a right-winger. So anything that helps you, anything that helps regular people, it's an outrage. I can't believe that my tax money goes towards this. Anything that helps industry, the military-industrial complex, financial institutions, supports it. So you should just know what his priorities are and what his ideology is, because he's showing you up front here. I'm tired of hearing about it. You're making excuses. You're soft. It's nothing to do with being soft. It has to do with how the hell do you raise a kid when you need 2 incomes in order to survive, and so mommy and daddy have to work? Well, there's one way to do it. It's called childcare. It's called childcare. I'd love it if we could survive on one salary. Some people are lucky enough to do that, but most are not. And so then you need childcare. It's not some sort of moral failing of the parents. It's the hard economic reality. I think of my situation. I was thankful enough where my dad made a decent amount of money growing up. He owned a Chevrolet dealership. He ended up selling that in the late 1990s, investing all the money and then immediately losing it. He invested it in a company called Prodigy, which was supposed to be like the next Google. Have you heard of it? No, I didn't think so. It didn't end up being the next Google. So he literally blew millions of dollars in the stock market. Devastating. I think him and my mom, of course, had a giant fight over that. But anyway, my dad made a lot of money. So my mom was able to raise my sister and I until I was maybe 12 or 13. And then after that, my mom went back to work because my dad lost all the money. And they split up too, by the way. Long stories. I can't really get into all the personal details now, obviously. It's not for this segment. But bottom line is, I was lucky enough to have a mom with me for the first 12 or 13 years of my life. And because we were able to survive on one salary, a lot of people don't have that option. And then later on, when both of them had to work, guess what? Well, I was sort of old enough to not need childcare at that point. You know what I mean? But would I have been able to live like that if I was 6 years old and my mom and dad had to work and I was on my own? I wouldn't have been able to do it. You needed help. You need it. So it's just, he's ignoring hard economic realities because he's a hack.